Thank you. I'm honored to be with you today for your commencement from one of the finest universities in the world. Truth be told, I never graduated from college. It is the closest I have ever gotten to the college graduation. Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That is no big deal, just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of college after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why I dropped out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was young, undergraduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted to college graduates. So everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really want a girl. So my parents, who were on a waiting list, got a call in the middle of the night asking, "We have got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They said, of course. My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college, and then my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only released a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This is the start of my life. And 17 years later, I did go to college, but I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford, and all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition after 6 months. I couldn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I want to do with my life, and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was spending all of the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the one that looked for more interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I turned cook bottle for the fixing deposit to buy food with, and would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it, and much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later. Or let me give you one example. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every door was beautiful hand calligraph. Because I have dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typeface, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on the single course in college. The Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts, and since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them if had never dropped it out. I would have never dropped it on this calligraphy class, and personal computer might not have the wonderful photography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backward 10 years later. Again, you can connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward, so you have to trust the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, because believing that the dot will connect down the road, it will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads so off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference. My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I love to do early in life. And I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in our garage into a 2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We had just released our finest version to Macintosh a year early, and I just turned 30, and then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you start? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me, and for the first year or so things went well. But then our vision of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did our board of directors sided with him, so at 30 I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure and even thought about running away from the valley, but something slowly began to dawn on me. I still love what I did. That could have ever happened to me. The happiness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of beginning again. Less sure about everything, it freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During again, less sure about everything, it freed me to enter on one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pizza, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pizza went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next. I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance and learning, and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It would have food testing medicine, but I guess the patient needed. My third story is about that. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday You will most certainly be right. It made an impression on me, and since then for the past 33 years, I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no, for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Remembering that I will be dead soon is the most important tool I have ever encountered to help me make the big choice in life, because almost everything on external expectation or pride or fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the drop of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had a scan at 7:30 in the morning, and it clearly showed a tumor on the pancreas. I didn't even know what pancreas was. The doctor told me this was almost certainly a type of cancer that is incurable and that I should expect to live no longer than 3 to 6 months. My doctor advised me to go home and get my affairs in order, which is doctor's code for prepare to die. It means to try and tell your kids everything you thought you would have the next 10 years to tell them in just a few months. It means to make sure everything is butter up so that it will be as easy as possible for your family. It means to say your goodbyes. I lived with that diagnosis all day. Later that evening I had biopsy where they stuck an endoscope down my throat, my stomach and into my intestine, put a needle into pancreas and got a few cells from the tumor. I was sedated, but my wife, who was there, told me that when they viewed the cell under my microscope, the doctor started crying because it turned out to be a very rare form of pancreatic cancer that is curable with surgery. I had the surgery and thankfully am fine now. This was the closest I have been to facing death, and I hope it is the closest I get for a few more decided. Having lived thought it, I can now show this to you with a bit for certainty, and then when this was a useful but purely intellectual concept. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet that is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it, and that is as it should be, because this is very likely the single best invention of life. It is life-changing agent. It clear out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you, but someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be clearly away. Sorry to be so dramatic, but it is quite true. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the result of other people thinking. Don't let the noise of other opinion drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. When I was young, there was an amazing publication called the Whole Earth Catalog, which which was one of the Bibles of my generation. It was created by a fellow named Stewart Brandnow far from here in Menlo Park, and he brought it to life with his poetic touch. This was in the late 1960s, before personal computers and desktop publishing. So it was all made with typewriters, scissors and Polaroid camera. It was sort of like Google in paperback. From 35 years before Google came along, it was idealistic, overflowing with needs, tools, and great notions. Stewart and his team put out several issues of the whole Earth catalog, and then, when it had run its course, they put out a final issue. It was in my 1970, and I was your age. On the back cover of their final issue was a photograph of an early morning country road, the kind of might find yourself hitchhiking on if you were so adventurous. Beneath it were the words, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." It was their farewell message as they signed off. Stay hungry, stay foolish. And I have always wished that for myself. And now, as you graduate to begin anew, I wish that for you. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Thank you all very much.